Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Beyond the Broomstick, that podcast that opens up the opportunities and possibilities that spirituality can bring to you in your everyday life, whilst removing some of the woo-woo that we see on social media these days. Welcome. If we haven't met before, my name is Matilda and I am a professional psychic medium and spiritual coach based here in Australia. I have been doing this for close to 20 years. Absolutely love what I do, love helping people, and I'm really blessed to have the ability to do what I do. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about self-sabotage and how to help yourself from sabotaging yourself. I'm going to be looking at some of the current affairs that are going on. Also going to be talking about some predictions that I've seen coming in the coming months. And that's about it. That'll take up our time. It's been a busy week. I am here on a Tuesday. I think it's Tuesday. It is Tuesday. A Tuesday evening. I've usually recorded by now. And it is 10 to 9 in the evening. I just know I've got a busy couple of days coming up. I'm actually going to Melbourne on Thursday, very sadly, for a funeral for somebody. So I'm going to be staying down there for a couple of days. And it sort of takes, it just means that my week is out of kilter. And I've had to move readings around and some appointments that I've had, etc. If you joined Laurie Rivers and I for our predictive event, which was on Sunday my time, it was Saturday evening Europe and the US. Gosh, we had a lot of people there. I think there was close to 200 people that attended, which was lovely. We covered predictive events from now until sort of end of April, May time. We did dip into the summer a little bit, but not a lot. We were there channeling. Laurie was working on the astrological charts and talking in depth about the astrology of the time. I was channeling, and 3 hours we ended up being online for. So thank you everyone for your patience. It was lovely to see you all. I think by the end of it, my eyes were rolling into the back of my head. People don't understand the amount of energy that we use when we work, when we channel. I got offline and I was physically shaking. I had eaten before to make sure that I had eaten something decent, but 3 hours of constant channeling, and we took breaks every 45 minutes just to stand up and walk around. But it was a lot. It was a lot. I hope you got something out of it. The event will be in the Patreon shop sometime in the next 3 or 4 days. It just takes a bit of a time to edit and get it up. Anybody that paid for the event and couldn't make it, check your inbox, check your junk mail. It will be there because anyone that's paid for it gets the automatic recording of it. But yeah, thank you. It was a great event. We're probably looking at doing another one sometime April, May. And the other part of that news is that I'm not sure if I said this on my last week's podcast, if the decision had been made before I recorded. It has come to the point where the event that I was flying to the US for, that was going to take place at the end of April, we made the decision to cancel it purely because of the political climate in the US. There's a lot going on. Laurie and I have seen a lot coming in, traveling freely. I'm coming over from Australia to the US, or I was. And other people were planning to travel to this event. We did not want the responsibility of putting anyone else at risk, either financially or physically, to travel. And we will have an ability to have that event at a later stage, I am sure. But thank you everyone that showed support. Didn't want people losing money if the event had to be cancelled at the last minute for whatever reason. So this week, I'm going to be talking about self-sabotage. Now, a lot of people self-sabotage without even thinking about it. Even down to when you are making a decision to consume news, information, research, and then feel yourself being overwhelmed. How many of you out there are actually doing this right now? When you do that, you are self-sabotaging because you're stopping yourself doing what you need to do because you're overwhelmed by consuming information that you do not need to know. You don't need to know everything. And not everything that is coming out in the news is the real reality. That, unfortunately, is, the media at the moment, the legacy media is not being your friend. And they are spewing support that is ridiculous. So, no one wants to admit that you can sabotage yourself, but we all do it to some degree. Everyone has done things that took them out of step with a goal that they're trying to achieve or behavior that they want to change. And that's okay when we are aware of it. When we're not aware of it or our self-sabotaging behaviors, life can seem impossible. We can feel like we're playing a game where we don't understand all of the rules. It may seem like we'll never achieve the goals we want to live and the kind of life we want to live. Now, think about that. If you want peace, you have to find peace within yourself. When you're trying to create a change in your life, it's helpful to look at what you can control rather than what you cannot control. Fortunately, your behavior is something that you can change. Learn how to identify unhelpful patterns and how to stop self-sabotaging. The term sabotage means to deliberately damage, block, or impair something so that it doesn't work as intended. Even though we rarely block ourselves deliberately from getting what we want, we still might do or say things to get in our own way to others. It can even seem deliberate. What does it mean to self-sabotage? Self-sabotage is when people do or don't do things that block their success or prevent them from accomplishing their goals. It can happen consciously or unconsciously. Self-sabotaging behaviors can affect our personal and professional success as well as our mental health. Although we usually talk about self-sabotaging behavior, it's also possible to have self-sabotaging mindsets and patterns. Becoming aware of what causes self-sabotage is key to breaking these patterns. Self-sabotage happens when there's a mismatch between our values and our behaviors. It's most likely when we have to either do something that doesn't align with what we really want. Conversely, it might be that we know what we want, but do something that doesn't help us to get there. For example, your doctor tells you that you should start an exercise program. That's great, but you hate going to the gym. Knowing this, you sign up for a gym membership and sessions with a trainer, figuring the extra accountability will keep you motivated. On the first day of training, you arrive at the gym late or without your runners. Or you could be late for work, so you make a plan to start waking up at 6 a.m. That evening, you stay up watching TV after dinner. You rationalize to whatever you haven't finished can get done in the morning. Unfortunately, you oversleep. Waking up late throws off the rest of your day. You're so groggy and think, see, I'm just not a morning person. In each of these examples, our behaviors are out of alignment with what we want to see happen. When this kind of mismatch occurs, we can either change our behaviors or develop greater self-awareness. Self-awareness is when we know that we're not going to go to the gym, so we don't join, we find another exercise plan. Self-sabotaging behaviors are also linked to cognitive dissonance, the psychological discomfort associated with internal contradictions. When we try to make ourselves do something that isn't in line with our beliefs or values, we feel out of balance. Subconsciously, we often try to restore this balance by changing our behavior or creating circumstances, no matter how sneaky, that let us off the hook. There are many different patterns associated with self-sabotage. One of the most essential steps is identifying self-sabotaging behavior, is to develop the self-awareness. Self-awareness or introspection is critical to noticing unhelpful patterns or patterns of behavior and strengthening the ability to stop them in their tracks. A helpful way to begin identifying forms of self-sabotage is to frame your situation using the following sentence. I want to achieve A, but I keep doing B. For example, I want to get a passport, but I keep missing the appointment. Now that I've identified the behavior and how I keep blocking it, I can start to look for other areas where that behavior might show up. What I want to say is that a lot of people, and I have seen this a lot, and it's very, very overwhelming. Many people in my chats on my Patreon, and God bless you, I know you're keeping it to the venting chamber, and I feel for you, and I read every single one. It's just that if I react to them, I'm probably going to react in a way that tries to chivvy you on, and that's not what you need. You just want to vent. But I also see it on all of my social media platforms where people are angry, and the biggest thing that I hear is, I'm so tired, I can't do this, I am overwhelmed. But these are the people that are searching Google, the news, they're watching everything that comes up. Aaron Parnes, if he puts one more breaking news out. Guys, the world is not going to end if you take a couple of hours off your phone. Put your phone down. Turn the telly on, turn some music on, read a book, because your self-sabotaging behavior is that you want to feel better. You want to feel more powerful. You want to feel less overwhelmed, but yet you are consuming everything that is put in front of you. And that, to a certain point, it's understandable, but you're not going to miss out if you spend an hour, half an hour looking at the news and put your phone down. You are in control of what you consume. This that's going on now is a marathon. I have told you time and time again. There is a lot of legal work to be played out. There's a lot of stuff. I've already warned you that March is going to be heavy. March is going to be a shit show. Put your phones down. Get those habits straight now. Take up gardening. I actually just watched a TikTok of somebody that her husband asked her what she wanted to do after the kids went to bed, and she went, I'm really overwhelmed. I'm really tired. I just want to do some gardening. And he goes, yeah, that sounds good. She put one of the children to bed. She was waiting for him to come downstairs, and he had laid out seedling trays full of dirt ready to garden. And she wasn't talking about that sort of garden. She was talking about the gardening that you roll in papers and it makes you feel better when you smoke it. I'm not condoning that at all. I am just telling you something. But guys, please, this is up to you to manage. You need to stop the pattern. You are self-sabotaging your peace. I'm not saying that you don't have to pay attention. I'm just saying moderation. Striving to be perfect might sound like a good thing, but it often gets in the way of being effective. Perfectionists often struggle with getting started on projects, and when they do get started, obsession with details keeps them from finishing. Perfectionism also tends towards all or nothing thinking, tending to be especially harsh on yourselves, talk themselves out of potential opportunities before they even get started. Perfectionism stands in the way of progress. Moderation. People who struggle with moderation often have difficulty setting boundaries. Boundaries with yourselves, guys, as well as others. This behavior might look like people pleasing, which causes them to say yes to too many things, or it might be a lack of moderation in other areas in their lives, like one too many drinks at night, or one too many news articles on TikTok or social media or wherever you get your news. There are other more subtle ways of overdoing it, like staying up at night watching TV or working out to exhaustion at the gym. Although overcommitting can look like a strong drive to achieve, it often masks the underlying fear of success. Running on empty. Have you ever heard the fable that the goose that laid the golden egg, the owner was tired of only getting one egg per day? So they cut the goose open to get them all. It didn't work out that well. Neglecting your personal needs to try and get more done isn't just short sighted, it's a sneaky sign of self sabotage. Procrastination. Everyone guilty of procrastination now and again. Everyone does it. I do it, especially when it's a project that you don't really want to do. But putting off your responsibilities can actually indicate a lack of self confidence. When you procrastinate, you prevent yourself from having the time and the resources you need to get the best out of your work. Procrastination often goes hand in hand with perfectionism. Perfectionists will often delay starting a project if they feel they can't do it perfectly. Lack of communication. You know you need to help on a project, but you don't reach out. You're running late, but decide not to send that text. Communication is a regular part of our lives, both in and out of the workplace. When we resist communication, it's often due to self-criticism. We worry that by asking for help, we're highlighting our failures. Unfortunately, the lack of communication can be damaging to relationships. Even worse, it can create fertile ground for imposter syndrome because no one knows what you're dealing with. You live in fear of being found out. I'm going to take a break just for a second to give a shout out to my latest Patreon members. Patreon sponsors this podcast. Without my wonderful Patreon supporters, there is no podcast. If you get to join Patreon, there is some free information on Patreon, but there from $5 and up, you get a great deal of information, including a coffee morning with me. Don't forget, this week on Sunday, the $5 and up get to come to my coffee morning where I answer your spiritual or current affair questions. It's your chance to once a month. You get me all to yourselves. I often am found on chat, voice chat on Patreon. There's newsletters. There are hefty discounts to all of my readings. There is early access to all of my readings. My April readings went up to my Patreon members. They never got released to the public because they are all gone. So if you want to find out about my Patreon, just click the link in the show notes. But thank you to my newest members. Angie Gonzalez, JC, Irene, Kat Bliss, Kim M, Natalie Pascaretti, Heidi, Caitlin Dutton, Nicola Blonsik, Donde, Jasmine, Michelle Tubens, Patricia, who joined for 12 months. Michelle Tubens joined for 12 months, and Donde joined for 12 months. Sorry, I missed those. Priscilla, Barbara, Samantha, Spargu, Amy, Barbara, Val, Amanda, Wes, Irma, Winter, Denisi, Yamuna, Patricia, Jenna, Tali, Trina, Imelta, Zariel, Bethany, Amanda, Ronika, Roxy, Lauren, Laura, Jill, Jamie, Jew, Michelle, Hanif, Angelica, Margaret, Tony Young, Maria, Athena, and Beth. Thank you guys. You guys rock. Patreon is the place to be. We have lots of fun in our chats. When I go into the voice chats, which I do, I schedule a couple of months, and quite often I'll just pop on to say hi because I've got a spare hour. Spare hours are rare for me. But I feel like it's catching up with friends. I don't like to go on there and be bombarded with questions and prediction questions and what's going on here and what's going on there, purely because I used to fear going on TikTok. It made me really narky because everyone was like demanding. When I go onto the chats on Patreon, as I say, you get your chance to ask me questions in the coffee morning. When I go onto chats, it's a great opportunity for us to get to know each other, me to help you with strategies, spiritual questions I can answer, really help build your energy and lift your energy, because that's what you need to be concentrating on. If you want to know what's happening and you're holding on to an outcome, then you are going to just be concentrating on that. And the thing is, I want you to put your energy into you and what you need and what your immediate community needs. So what are the symptoms of self-sabotage? The signs of self-sabotage can be very subtle. Refusing to ask for help, controlling or micromanaging behavior, picking fights or starting conflicts with colleagues or loved ones, setting goals that are too low or too high, avoiding or withdrawing from others, negative self-talk, that's a big one, and extreme self-criticism, making excuses or blame shifting, undermining your goals and values. So that's a big one that I hear a lot of people. They really undermine what they want in life, especially when I'm asked about relationships and people not setting intention when they want a relationship. Like, they're putting up with second best and they expect somebody that is less than kind to them to suddenly change and commit to them or ask them to marry them. You're undermining yourself and your goals by staying with people like that. Substance abuse, overspending or overdoing it, constantly seeking approval and reluctance to speak up for yourself. When we're not aware of our negative thought patterns and how they affect our behavior, self-sabotage can ruin and run our daily lives. We might feel hopeless about the future or achieving our goals. We may think that there's something wrong with us and that we're just not capable of success. When this happens, these negative behaviors can become ingrained. They can amplify our insecurities. Self-sabotaging behavior drains our motivation, enthusiasm, and self-esteem because the evidence of our failure starts to pile up and we no longer think we are good enough. This self-doubt begins to perpetuate a cycle. When we're inevitably pushed to do something outside of our comfort zones, we panic. Those uncomfortable feelings and scared inner voices lead us to act against our best interests. And when it causes us to burn a bridge that really matters to us, it is heartbreaking. Learning to recognize and stop self-sabotaging behavior can help us rebuild our self-image. Here are 5 ways to stop self-sabotaging. Here's a couple of ways that can help you look at self-sabotage and how you can stop self-sabotaging. Develop self-awareness. Write it out. Create a plan and do it. Practice mindfulness and communicate. What does self-sabotage look for you? Do you wait until the last minute to start projects? Do you pick fights with others or run away from challenges? Start your inquiry with some sentences. I want to achieve a new job, but I keep doing nothing about it. Once you have identified the goal and the behavior that's blocking it, you can start to understand what the negative behavior is actually telling you. In many cases, self-destructive behavior is rooted in anxiety. Our anxious behaviors can cause us to avoid doing what we need to do to reach our goals. In this case, we're not avoiding the goal, just the perceived negative consequences of it. That includes the negative emotions we associated with it. I know it sounds complicated, but let's look at this for example. I want to get a passport, but I keep missing the appointment. Dig a little deeper. This can help what the negative feelings are trying to say. What happens? Well, I say I want to get a passport, but I never put the appointment on my calendar. That's a good place to start. Why wouldn't I put an important appointment on my calendar or my schedule? Paying attention to this behavior might help you notice that when I make the appointment, I follow it by doing something counterproductive. Paying attention to my inner voice, I hear myself say, there's no point in getting a passport. You'll never get time off to go anywhere. Besides, it's too expensive. This is just an example. But if we slow down the loop, we often find that there's a sneaky thought that happens between making progress and the unproductive action. In this case, it's a fear of not having the money or time to travel, instead of addressing that I just avoid getting a passport. If you're having trouble identifying your patterns, start by keeping a journal. As you continue to write about your goals, you may start to notice yourself complaining that the same things over and over again. Share these thoughts with a coach or therapist. They may be able to help you find ways to overcome them. Sometimes self-sabotage behavior is a result of past trauma. We might develop survival strategies that keep us from further harm. Unfortunately, when these strategies outlive their usefulness, it becomes difficult to break them. Working with someone else can help you resolve and find out what the underlying emotional pain is. Practicing mindfulness really helps. Self-defeating behavior patterns are often painful to break. They may be coping mechanisms to help you deal with past traumas, or they may have prevented you from achieving goals that meant a lot to you. Once you start unpacking them, you may see the impact of these patterns on your professional, personal, and romantic relationships. It's important to learn to sit with these difficult feelings and be gentle with yourself as they come up. Practicing mindful breathing and meditation is a great idea. Not only can it help you develop self-compassion, but it can help you break down the patterns faster. Breathwork strengthens your ability to stay present, which will help you notice when your inner critic pipes up. You can support this growth by doing inner work or working with a coach, or listening to other episodes of this podcast that talk about past trauma, patterns, healing, all of those things that may help you identify and work on the goals that you want to achieve. Self-sabotaging can come in many, many forms, but communication can really help with some of this. In some ways, this step is both the simplest and the scariest. People who self-sabotage will paradoxically do just about anything to avoid drawing attention to their insecurities. Telling people what they're afraid of might seem like jumping out of a pan and into the fire, but communicating, even if it's only a little bit of your mental health journey, can have several benefits. For one, voicing a fear often makes it less frightening. For another, sharing your goals helps build accountability and support. Finding friends, communities, and people to talk to can really help you. It is really important for everyone who does self-sabotage to understand that it is a pattern of behavior that is not very good for you and can be difficult to break. Be kind to yourself, and that includes your inner talk. Many of us have that negative self-talk that we compare ourselves to others. We're too tall, we're too fat, we're not good enough, we're never going to make this happen, we're never going to do that happen, people will laugh at us. Whatever your fears are, work with your affirmations, work with your friends and community, and understand that many, many people are suffering just as much as you are. And as soon as you are open about your struggles, you will find many people want to share theirs, and you can work together towards getting over that self-sabotage. But self-sabotage is stopping you enjoying the little things in life that you deserve. Just a reminder that if you are continuing to buy into the propaganda that is online or on the news, irrespective of what country you are, I see it time and time again. The right wing will spread lies in order to get you to panic. The left will do clickbait and panic in order to keep you in panic mode. I know it's really hard to stay away from social media or the news for that matter, but I've seen it. I have seen the crap even now as Australia starts towards a general election. We are looking at so much propaganda. I've seen it. I've seen people blame, and it's straight on to blaming immigration for their woes in this world. The breakdown in society at the moment, the systemic changes that are starting are going to take years to fix. We have to bring the dirt and the rot to the surface in order to fix it. And this is the way it's going to happen. Yes, we are living in difficult times. Yes, you need to look after yourself and find your joy no matter where it is. And that doesn't mean to say I don't have empathy for absolutely everybody going through this. But if I fall down the rabbit hole of I'm so sad about it, I'm panicking about it, and fall down that rabbit hole of fear with everyone, what use am I to anybody? I have to keep a level head, and I have to only give to you what I am getting from spirit. Now, I'm going to touch on a few things, but I do want to talk about the US very quickly. This is all going to be litigious. I've said that right from last year. They have to give him enough rope. What you see as enough rope has to be really, really bad. March and April are standing out to me as things changing. No, the Democrats aren't suddenly going to come in to presidency. It is about a shift. I do think that JD Vance will end up taking over at some point. I do see an assassination attempt on Trump. Is it going to be a successful one? I can't tell you right now. I've always said, and this is going back to last year before the election, that I didn't see him making it too far into 2026, if at all. Elon Musk is going to face quite significant charges moving through this year. I think he'll end up having to leave the US, and that isn't a bad thing. But wait for things to play out. Nothing is going to happen immediately. Be prepared for some form of martial law during April. And another thing that I have seen for the US is wildfires happening, I think, pretty early this year. I know we've had the Californian ones, but I want to highlight Phoenix, Arizona. Don't know why. I got that the other day. I know there was a plane crash there, but I am seeing the possibility of fires. In the news coming up, there's going to be a significant, and I know we had an 8 or 7.5, they lowered it to, in the Caribbean. I'm still seeing significant earthquakes in Japan, in the South Pacific, and I think there was one in Vanuatu last night or the night before. So be ready for those. I see something pretty significant in the San Francisco area. So if you are in that area, make sure that you are ready and prepped. No, I do not have dates. I wish I did. United Kingdom is going to see a really strange news cycle where it's going to be covering things like old crimes, old news. Things are being uncovered about past crimes. I also feel like there is going to be something significant terrorism-wise aimed at Downing Street. And just be careful if you're on the streets of London. There's a lot of tension. And there's a lot of tension towards Americans. The buff is trying to join in. I've got new neighbours moving in today, so there's a beep, beep, beep of the truck. He's not very happy about it. But guys, it's time to start working on that lift of energy. I really want you to stop worrying about the what is to come and understand that a lot of things that Trump's putting on deck have to pass Congress, have to go before different courts, etc. And I do think he's going to be in a considerable amount of trouble coming up. Next month, probably. Could be April, but I feel like it's coming in March. But as I've always said, he is only a symptom of a problem that needs to be unearthed and changed. This is a global issue. It is not just about the United States. I hope today's episode has been helpful for you. I have a large mediumship event in April. The link will be in my show notes. Coffee morning. If you are a Patreon member, do not forget we have our coffee morning. I host that once a month. That's your opportunity to ask current affair or spiritual questions. And because I try and not to have those in the chat. So coffee morning is happening this weekend. I'm off for a couple of days. I wish it was R&R, but it's not. And I will catch you all next week. You take care of yourselves. Lots of love. And remember, you are responsible for your own sense of self and boundaries with what you look at, what you watch, what you see, and what you inhale. It doesn't make you uncaring. How can you help anyone else if you do not help yourself? Take care.